Yo ho ho ho! Back in the new world, that's right, to Soaking Krasmataz. First guide of 2025, better late than never. And we're coming in hot with one of the DLC packs. For this one, this prominent display of the new world shall be none other than that future admiral himself. Honesty Impact Koby. Jumping right into that Film Red pack. When I first started playing Koby, I first noticed two things about him. I noticed that his speed typing made him feel kind of like a better version of what we wanted to see from a post-time skip Sanji moveset. It also had a weird blend of some of a few other characters in the game. So, Koby, I would affectionately say, plays very similarly to a mixture of like Rob Lucci combined with some of Beji's minions. That's the best way to describe him. He fights well with his 6 powers, but he also uses marine formations on his Y attacks as well. Or triangle attacks, or heavy attacks, whatever. I've been calling them heavies for a large portion of my guides now, so we'll stick with that. Koby's a pretty generic speed type in terms of how his moves are sequenced. However, what's really interesting about him is that on 3 of his combos, it'll summon a formation of Marines to attack with him. So it happens on his grounded C1. It also happens on his grounded C5 and C8 combos. It'll create the same formation every time, nothing random about them. However, what is dependent on the strength of these formations largely boils down to how much of his, they call it morale, I suppose, in the game, but it seems to be just generated based on how much damage you're dealing. So with that in mind, it's interesting that you can actually play Koby very dynamically. There's actually enough of a playstyle gap where you can incorporate a few of his mechanics very specifically, right? So he seems to excel, 1, in aerial combat, but 2, in his minion mechanics. So rather than incorporate both mechanics into one build, I decided to create 2 builds. That allows for one to really like explore the dynamics of each way that Koby plays. So this build is tailored more to showcase the minions themselves. And since the minions are more for crowd control than they are for pure raw damage, I also seem to prefer to value Interception and his grounded ults to really highlight his minion build potential. Interception also allows for an instant armor break, much like Usopp's Flash Style special, and a few other characters' specials will also do instant armor breaks. And naturally, you just want that full force burst. For his skills, you just want the usual set. You want Cheat Death, Force Burst Enhancement, Hero Strength, and a Stamina builder. I prefer Burning Resolve on this build, given that you'll be spending more time on the ground than the air. Bloodcurdling Blow, just to help with that armor break when you don't have your special. And Airborne Adept will still be useful on this build since you'll be sending enemies flying a lot. So, we have his grounded light string. 9 hits, as you can see by this glowing aura around him. That is Koby's morale, which determines the strength of your minions that you make. So let's do that. Light, heavy. Nothing too dynamic about this move. Solid crowd clearing on it and comes out pretty quick. And then let's see, we have his light, This is also solid for chip damage, good for chipping away at armor. As you can see there. Then he has his 1, 2, 3. Good for aerial setups. This will be better for your other build. Not as much for this one, however. For you're about to see the 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's his C5, and it also creates those giant minions. However, if you end up having no morale, then it only sends a very small assortment of Marines to actually run in with you. So, we have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is easily one of Koby's best moves right here. Doesn't matter what build you're using, that thing just pierces through enemies, clears crowds, deals a ton of damage. Love to see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into your heavy. Creates that little 6 powers rush. It's a pretty solid move. I like using that for chipping away at armor and for knocking back crowds. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This move is a huge one to come out, but it also takes a little bit to set up as well. And also if you have no morale. What's interesting about that though, I did notice that this move, even with the low strength minions will still come out and knock down a grounded elite, which is actually kind of useful setup still, but you'll get the same intended effect from a fully charged version. So with this build, the name of the game is to just build up morale as fast as possible with your faster attack speed grounded moves. 1, 2, 3. That one generates a pretty quick charge. So does that one. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll have full morale in no time. Speaking of which, when you summon your minions, it does a fractional yet noticeably present amount of damage, making Koby and Hancock two of the only characters that actually have such a feature to their full force burst. Fun little note for them. However, this is the one right here. This is what you really do with this build. So your grounded C1 makes a formation of rocket launcher minions, but rather than let the whole animation play out, you can just spam cancel out of it with a power dash and make a whole 2 lines of Marine troops firing with you. And then, as I said before, Interception will instantly clear armor, but it has a very small hitbox, making it... Admittedly, it's not my first choice for Koby specials. But it's still a solid choice to have on your menu, especially if you plan on utilizing a more like Deadly Cadence Hidden Resolve kind of build. But yeah, this build is pretty fun, I will admit. But it's not nearly as entertaining to me as when you pull up in Koby's 6 powers build. This was the build that I originally found myself playing with Koby. And it relies more on his aerial combat than his grounded. That's not to say that you won't use his grounded combat in this build as well, but admittedly, you're not going to miss these moves. So for your special, you want just the Swallow Kick on an aerial build, and then you also want Tempest Kick Convergence. Honestly, if you wanted to run this move over Interception for a ground build, this would honestly be the special to use. This is just Koby's best special, honestly. However, for this build, I also like to run Razor Strikes, mostly for the visual, but it also generates a good bit of armor bar clearing. That you're gonna notice the lack of armor clearing options without Interception. So Razor Strikes allows you to gain some advantage on the ground, and gain some advantage off of running a Hidden Resolve build, since you'd be spending more time in the air anyway. I would say that Airborne Adept is probably the better option here, but having Deadly Cadence is also a solid choice for a skill as well. If you're running the fully upgraded Soul map, I will leave a full list of 12 skill slot build for you all to take a look at in the description below. However, for future guides, I will be utilizing a 6 slot build, just because realistically most of this game's challenges are only scaled to level 18, thus rendering the soul map kind of a unnecessary add-on for this game. And so with that, let's really take a look at what Koby can do with a speed run on his belt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's his aerial light combo. It does moderate damage, but what's really good about this combo is that it gets you back to the ground relatively quickly, despite the fact that a lot of his other moves come out faster. However, if you're really trying to get to the ground as fast as possible while you're in the air, light, heavy, that's the way to do it. So I've likened Koby to Sanji in the past before, but if it isn't for this move right there, that's basically just Sanji's reception special from his pre-time skip moveset. That's it. That's the same move. It has the same grouping properties, it has the same attack speed. The only difference about it is that you can only use it in the air, which is when you should be using it anyways. Now his light, heavy. Another similar Sanji aerial. Gives him a little bit of a kickboxing aerial, where he just flurries forward into a bunch of kicks. Then you're 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, let's just aim that forward. Gives you a little tornado. Not really a big fan of that move, to be honest. Now, that aerial light 4 string in the air, that is a real nice one. That aerial C5 will not only group enemies together faster than the C4 does, it also meteors you to the ground, dealing that chip damage and dealing a ton of damage from your minions in the process. Not a ton, but a noticeably different amount. Altogether, if you can aim this attack with precision, you can generate a ton of damage real quick. So there's your Razor Strikes. As I said before, I utilize that mostly for chip damage to armor, and as you saw there, it does some work. It does some real work to armor. And finally, we'll just use Swallow Kick real quick. As you saw there, you can use Swallow Kick to follow up out of a launcher attack, like your grounded C4. Your grounded C4 will launch them in the air. A few other moves will as well, such as the grounded C2 and the grounded... Actually, no, the grounded C2 does not launch them. Fair enough. Yeah, really with Koby, your launchers are going to be more of an aerial C2. Yeah, aerial C2 launches them. and your grounded C4. Okay, that was the grounded C5, but you get the idea. When you use your launcher or move that launches enemies, you just want to go on ahead and... Oh, and I almost forgot. I always forget about just the C1 by itself. That heavy in the air by itself is also really good to spam, just like his grounded version of the same move. Oh, ace. Yeah, let's just see that damage register. Nice, it even killed an enemy. Further showing that Koby's aerial is insane. We just barely missed it. Further showing that the hitbox on Swallow Kick does require a little bit of precision. Huh. It looks like the DLC characters really got the hockey glow up. I did not realize that. I guess Koby can damage characters in a Lokia state. That's exciting. So, the Convergence Tempest kick there. Really nice special, not only for its damage, but also for its insane attack range. It can travel a huge distance and deal a big amount of damage in a very short amount of time. And it's almost always going to fully charge your morale meter. Yep, fully charged. Now let's just Swallow Kick. Get a 3 count real quick. 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, one thing that I just showed there. If you don't time the Razor Strike's special at the right time, if you try to sequence both Razor Strike attacks together, like I just did, it'll miss. And complementarily, if you manage to time a minion attack into a special, the minion attack will play on behind you while you perform the rest of the move. A lot of interesting synergies that this character has. So, tutorial aside, let's go ahead and go for a proper speedrun. Go for a proper speedrun and show off Koby's... I think Koby's greatest strength has to be his attack speed and his precision. He doesn't necessarily have the biggest attack hitbox out of all the characters. But his speed, I will say, he really just feels like a more dynamic version of both movesets that Sanji has combined. Five, 6. Keeping in mind that when your Force Burst activates, it does do that damage. So what's really good to do with it is to position yourself in a way so that it hits as many enemies as possible. And again, when you're in your Force Burst, you really want to take advantage of the fact that your morale is unlimited. And just spam the ever-living shit out of your minions. One, 2, 3, 4. Comboing out of his aerial C5 into his Swallow Kick right off the rip. go. Sable's out of the way. This should be a much more manageable fight. Let's see if we can clear Whitebeard real quick. Nope, not even close. Nice. And he gets the bounty. Very nice. Oh yeah, let's get that transport commander real quick. Yoink. So beyond the weird timing of his minions, the fact of the matter with Koby is that there's really not a whole lot of strategy in his kit other than just sequencing together whichever attack hits you find play best to your style. Because Koby truly is just a massively versatile character that allows for multiple play styles in order for him to really flourish. Oh, look at that. He just cleared out a Billy Better bounty right there. He's got some real damage on him, that's for sure. And honestly, a lot of the Marine characters in this game, even if they had incredible power, not a lot of the Marines had way of generating a lot of speed into their movesets. So this is a nice, Koby's a refreshing change of pace for what most of the Marine characters had to deal with in advance to this, from just being either strictly power types or Kizaru being the one exception to having a Marine with a relatively fun moveset. And for our next guide, we'll get to dive into more of those Marines with a more interesting moveset, we'll call it. That's right, our next guide will be another double for two characters that really don't need too much of a guide. We'll be diving more into the movesets of Garp and Kuzan. That's right. Following up on that anime hype a little bit. Alright, folks. Thanks for sticking around for the end of this guide. And until next time.